The Lord, beautiful. So we are back, Bruce, tonight. Really awesome day. It's your birthday. In first scene, and we into my time of faith here. Why? Because you never like something with that thing gonna keep you and you know all this stuff. You know what? You should have some faith. It's gonna be situations. I'm going to five. The shift is Lifeline. Faith is on your life. Faith is your life. It is. Sexual relationship is in him. Just him to give you a sin, simple act, make you righteous. In other words, God looks at you as though you have never sinned. You live free from guilt and confident of eternal life. Now, then you continue saying, change, understand it. Genesis 15:6, Abram believed the Lord declared him righteous because of his faith. Romans 3:24-25. God, in his gracious kindness, declares us not guilty. We are made right with God. We believe that Jesus' blood sacrifices life. So God's power will protect you until you receive salvation, because you are trusting what will be revealed on the last day for all to see. So now we're going to look at this. I hope you can see that. We'll look at the Lifeline, evidence, things that is before things not seen. So this is what this is, because this is things that have yet to come to pass. We are waiting for. It is we have hope for in the Lord. But see, in the last days, faith is what is going to continue, including now. Going from faith to faith is what's going to continue to keep you, because when we already here, the mark of the beast, all the stuff is starting. We see it. They're talking about food stamp cards, being digital. They're going cashless. Everything is changing. We're seeing it. So we must be preparing our lives, our households, ourselves, our minds, our hearts with the Lord. And because we know that this time of the great tribulation and great suffering is going to be coming, and faith is what you're going to have, because that's all you're going to have to hold on to, have faith in the Lord. We talk about it, Samuel chapter 5. Now, when the Philistines captured the ark of God, they brought it from Ebenezer to Ashdod. Then the Philistines took the ark of God and brought it into the house of Dagon and set it up beside Dagon. Why did they do that? That's their God that they worship, remember? And when the people of Ashdod rose early the next day, behold, Dagon had fallen face downward on the ground before the ark of the Lord. God, that's funny. So they took Dagon and put him back in his place. But when they rose early on the next morning, behold, Dagon had fallen face downward on the ground again, as he did before the ark of the Lord. And now the head of Dagon and his hands, both hands, were lying cut off on the threshold. Only the trunk of Dagon was left to him. This is why the priests of Dagon and all who enter the house of Dagon do not tread on the threshold of Dagon in Ashdod to this day. They scared, they know better. God's making an example of them and their gods. And we're going to look at it. The hand of the Lord was heavy against the people of Ashdod, and he terrified and afflicted them with tumors, both Ashdod and its territory. And when the men of Ashdod saw how things were, they said, the ark of the God of Israel must not remain with us, for his hand is hard against us and against Dagon our God. Now my thing is, why would you continue to believe and worship the sky if you already see what's going on? So they sent and gathered together all the lords of the Philistines and said, what shall we do with the ark of the God of Israel? They answered, let the ark of the God of Israel be brought around to Gath. So they brought the ark of the God of Israel there. After they had brought it around, the hand of the Lord was against that city, causing a very great panic. And he afflicted men of the city, both young and old, so that the tumors broke out on them too. Forgive me for laughing, but I can't help it. So they sent the ark of God to Ekron. But as soon as the ark of God came to Ekron, the people of Ekron cried out too. They have brought around to us the ark of God of Israel to kill us and our people. They sent, therefore, and gathered together all the lords of the Philistines and said, send away the ark of God of Israel. They thought they was doing something. Till it didn't work. But it was a deathly panic throughout the whole city. The hand of God was very heavy there. The men who did not have were struck with tumors, and the cry of the city went up to heaven. This is too much. I hate to be laughing, but it's funny because what was you thinking? So if you don't like somebody, why would you capture them, their God, and bring it to, especially knowing how God was? And then you still don't believe, know all you know. So it's like you see what you don't see, you hear what you don't hear. Your head is just hard as a brick. And this is why you're going through what you're going through. Now, the Philistines had badly defeated the Israelite army, despite that the ark of the Lord had been brought to the battle in hopes that God would fight for his unfaithful people. He had not. The ark had been captured and is now delivered to Ashdod, one of the 5 major Philistine cities. Now see, Satan will allow you because he's so determined to beat God. But if God created you, you can't beat him. So you might as well just sit him down and just stop. But see, his pride and his ego will not. This is where all of this stuff comes in. Instead of just go ahead, repent, and no. See, and that's what got him kicked out of heaven. And this is what we see over and over again with them, with their gods, this pride and this ego. So the Philistines believe that their victory means that their God, meaning Dagon, has proved more powerful than the God of the Israelites. So they believe Israel's deities to be the ark physically. So they set it up in Dagon's temple to show that Dagon is superior to the Lord. This is why he made an example of them. Now, returning the next day, though, they find Dagon, the idol, face down in front of the ark in a position of worship, meaning worshiping, at the ark. The day after that, they find Dagon's head and hands removed and lying on the threshold to the temple. God, got that off. Okay, so with the remainder of the statue face down in front of the ark as in bowing. The symbolism of these events is not merely humiliating of the idol of Dagon, but also reflects the Lord's utter contempt for the false deity. So now, I mean, these are things that you just cannot explain away, and you just still going on. I mean, at what point do you say, I'm just wrong, and let me just go ahead and let me just change, leave the God I'm with, because it's not a God. I know, this is something else. No, folks hate us hard. They just will not give it up. They're going to continue to worship them demons, because that's what they are. Things get even worse. Satan and his demons, and them Nephilims, and them familiar spirits, and all of them disembodied ones that hate you, because that's what they are. They are the ones that hate humans, well, the ones that God created, his children, because he killed them off and he left them without bodies and gave us their home. They say that's what they did. So when you see the aliens and all these so-called the disembodied spirits, they're demons, and they sitting there talking about, oh, they hate us, they hate, because why does God love us? He made man in his image and he loves us more, we're lesser than them, because, right, and this is why. They hate us and they do everything in their power to kill us off, but you go and worship them instead of worshiping the God that loves you, created you. This is crazy. And they want to kill you. And when they get finished using you, that's what they're going to do. So anyway, things get even worse for the Philistines. The Lord's judgment acts swiftly. With the power of the people of Ashdod, he afflicts them with these in surrounding areas with the terror and tumors. The exact nature of the tumors is not stated, but scholars suggest that they may have been boils and or hemorrhoids. So the men of the city recognize that this is a plague from the Lord of Israel against them and their God, because they have the ark. Meaning, you thought you were going to steal the ark and just get away with it. You thought this was about you. God was teaching Israel a lesson, but he's teaching you one too. A meeting of the rulers of the 5 major Philistine cities is called the ark is sent away from Ashdod east to Gath. That's what they did. So where the same thing happens again, the text seems to just suggest the situation gets even worse. While men young and old experience an outbreak of tumors and the level of pain rises. Why just give the ark back? Why did you even steal it in the first place? What was you thinking? The leaders of Gath quickly have enough and send the ark to Ekron. Here they go, send it somewhere else. They just, anywhere but there, they want to get rid of it. Just take it back. You just don't want to take it back to Israel. That was stupid. This means each time the ark has moved, it has been taken closer to Jerusalem, but not in its rightful people, but it's not there yet. So the people of Ekron began to panic as soon as the ark arrives, believing that the people of the other Philistine cities are trying to kill them. It's likely that some of the carnage in Ekron was actually caused by terrified reactions and fear rather than the disease itself. So their minds are just going. Now, another meeting of the rulers of the 5 cities is called. So the people of Ekron demand that the ark be sent back to Israel before it kills them all. Why didn't y'all just do that from the beginning? Y'all let all these other people, because your pride and ego would say, let me just take it back. This is what happened. So some of the men of Ekron to die, apparently from the panic itself, while the others are struck with the terrible tumors. They cry out of people, and of the city is immense, poetically being said to reach heaven. So in the following chapter, the Philistine leaders will produce a plan to rid themselves of the ark without suffering even further damage. Right, you should have just it was just dumb. You see how the stupidity of people. Now it's time to inquire what has become of the ark of God. We cannot but think that we shall hear more of the scattered treasure. I should have thought the next news would have been that all of Israel from Dan to Beersheba had gathered together as one man with the resolution to bring it back or to die in an attempt to get it. But we find not any motion of made of any kind. So little was there of zeal and courage left among them to even go get it. Why is that? Nay, we do not find that they desire a treaty with the Philistines about the ransom of it, meaning they didn't even attempt to go get it back or offered anything in lieu of it. This is sad. They was just going to let it go. It is gone and let it go. Many have softness enough to lament the loss of the ark, that they have not hardness enough to take one step towards recovery of it, and any more than Israel here. So if the ark will help itself, it may, for they will not help it. So God did it himself, because they weren't even trying. This is so sad. Unworthy they were of the name of Israelites that could thus tamely part with the glory of Israel, a God who therefore take the work in his own hands and plead his own cause. So he did it himself, since men would not appear for him. They didn't show up to even bother. We are told in this chapter how the Philistines triumphed over the ark, how the ark triumphed over the Philistines, exactly, over Dagon their God, over the Philistines themselves, who were solely plagued with emerods and made weary of the ark. The men of Ashdod first, and then the men of Gath, and then lastly Ekron, which forced them, and left upon a resolution to send the ark back to the land of Israel. From when God judges, he will overcome. So this is sad. So you mean to tell me they took it and the Israelites then ganged up together to go fight to get it back? What was their problem? This is, that says a lot about the people you love and fight for, if they would in turn fight and care for you the same way. This is just, it says so much on so many levels. But let's get into it, because this let us see how God is faithful to us, how he loves us in spite of us and all the crap we do to him. But yet we are nowhere near that. That's why we need to stay on our knees and repenting all the time, because we are just some low down dirty folks. Like, it's, how do he even love us? How do he even care about us like that? With the way that we treat him, the way that we act, like, let's just be real and honest about it. But he still loves us and wants to have a relationship with us. This is just mind blowing, but we're gonna get into it. Okay, let me see. Okay, so I gotta go back, because there's just so much to unpack with this. I mean, just the fact that they didn't bother just bothers me. They didn't even bother. Ugh. We're gonna start. So we're going to start with why they didn't bother to even try to get the ark back, because they did not. Now, short answer, they didn't fight to get the ark back because they were defeated, shaken spiritually, out of alignment. They had just learned that they couldn't control God, because that's what they were trying to do. God himself chose to handle the situation without them. So what just happened in context from chapter 4, we're going to look at Israel brought the ark into God's battle like a good luck charm, and they thought if we brought the ark, we'll win. Result was massive defeat, tens of thousands killed, ark captured, Eli the priest dies, and national shock and mourning. But this wasn't just loss. It was humbling and disorienting for them. So they realized they misused God. This is a turning point. So before, they treated the ark like a weapon, a tool, and a guarantee of victory. Now after they saw we can't control God, they thought they was manipulating God, which we tend to do from time to time. We tend to think if we pray and fast and do all of this, we're going to move God's hand into getting what we want. So instead of rushing to fight again, they backed off. Why? Because their confidence was broken. Their understanding of God was completely wrong. And this is how this goes wrong. With the righteousness, the rituals, the religious things that we think we are so... God didn't tell them to fight, and this is huge. In other battles, God directly instructed Israel, and he gives strategy and tells them when, where, and how to attack. So now here, there's no instruction, there's no command to retrieve the ark. So God was saying, this situation, I'm going to handle it myself, and that's exactly what he did. God was proving he doesn't need them to defend him exactly. Think about it. No army, no battle plan, and no human effort. He doesn't. He don't need us. We need him. Yet, Dagon falls. Cities are struck, and Philistines panic. Just with them having the ark, that let us see that God is who he is, the I am over all these deities. Lesson, God doesn't need people to fight for him when they are out, especially when they are out of alignment. He don't need us anywhere. But also, Israel was in fear and confusion. Put yourself in their position. You just lost badly. Thousands are dead. Your spiritual reach failed. The ark, God's presence is gone, right? So this creates fear, uncertainty, and hesitation. They likely thought, why did God let this happen? Are we even in his favor? No, you're not. If we go again, we will lose again, maybe, because he was pissed off with y'all. They were not ready spiritually. This is one of the biggest reasons. The real issue wasn't military, it was spiritual. Corruption in leadership, Eli's sons, disobedience, lack of true reverence of God. If they went back immediately, they repeat the same mistake. So God paused the situation, not to destroy them, but to reset them. Okay. Contrast, what does God do instead? Instead of Israel acting, God acts directly among the Philistines. He humiliates Dagon, sends plagues, and spreads fear. Result, the enemy returns the ark themselves. Ooh, won't he do it? Deeper meaning than it now, because God said he'll make your enemies your footstool. The ones who curse you will turn around and bless you. So then Israel learns God is not a tool. Exactly. Victory is not automatic. Presence does not equal control. So now, modern parallels. Sometimes people try to force outcomes. Yes. Use faith like a formula. Yeah. And when things collapse, the best move isn't always to fight harder. It's to step back and realign. Yep. When not fighting is actually right. This moment teaches something powerful. Not every situation requires action. Sometimes acting too soon equals repeating failure. Also equals forcing outcomes, meaning equals to deeper loss. Instead, pause, reflect, and realign. Think of it like this. Don't fight a battle you lost because you were out of position. Fix the position first. Faith lesson in this. Faith isn't always go harder, do more, fight back immediately. Sometimes faith is trusting God to move without your control. Exactly. Waiting instead of forcing. This is where you got to know when to hold, when to fold. People like, why you ain't do it? Because I don't need to. I'm going to let God do it. You know, some things you just got to sit back. Oh, you need to be. No, I don't. I'm going to need to chill, let God handle it. It's certain things I can do when he say move, move. When he say wait. When he, this is go left, go right. This is how this go. Final big idea, Israel didn't go get the ark back because the real problem wasn't in the ark. It was that they had lost alignment with God. Until that changed, fighting again would have just repeated the same failure. So God stepped in and handled it himself. Wow. Okay, so now we're going to go back and we're going to go into, since we've gotten that out the way, because that was just so disrespectful, but we see what happened and we see why, so it makes a lot of sense. So now we're going to go back and we're going to look from the beginning of what exactly went on with these folks. I know that their minds was probably totally like, what in the world is going on here? Okay, so now I gotta go all the way back, Okay. All right. Oh, excuse me. 1 second. Okay, here's a clear structure breakdown of 1 Samuel chapter 5. Now, like all, we're just gonna look at all of what went on, the highlights quickly, and we're going to break it down so we understand it, right? So after the Philistines captured the Ark of the Covenant, they placed it in the temple of their god, Dagon. Remember? God shows his power by humiliating Dagon and striking the Philistine cities with the plagues, forcing them to move the Ark from place to place and causing widespread fear. So verse by verse, the Ark was taken to Ashdod, the Philistines bring the ark to Ashdod. They place it in the temple of Dagon next to their idol, meaning they think their God defeated Israel's God. This is why they did that. So Dagon falls before the ark. The people find Dagon falling face down before the ark. They set him back up. So the next morning Dagon is fallen again, but his hands are broken off. So only the torso remains, meaning God is proving that he is superior. Dagon is powerless, and the breaking of hands symbolizes loss of power and authority. So God sends affliction on Ashdod. The Lord strikes the people with tumors, meaning plagues. Fear spreads, and they decide to move the ark to Gath, meaning God's presence brings judgment on those who dishonor him. Verses 9 through 10, Gath is now struck. The same thing happens in Gath. The people suffer severe affliction. Panic spreads again, meaning there's no escape from God's power, even city to city. Verses 10 through 12, Ekron is terrified. The ark is moved to Ekron now. The people cry out. They brought it to kill us. A deadly plague hits. Many die. Others suffer tumors. The city is filled with fear and cries, meaning the Philistines realize this is not just an object. This is the presence of the living God. The key themes here is God's supremacy over the idols, meaning over their gods. Dagon falls twice. God doesn't need Israel to defend him. The lesson is God proves himself. He doesn't need help defending his glory. God cannot be used and or controlled. The Philistines treat the ark like a trophy. Instead, it becomes judgment to them. The lesson in this is God is not a tool and or a symbol. He is sovereign. Judgment on those who oppose God. Tumors, death, and fear across the cities. The lesson in this is ignoring and or dishonoring God has consequences. Now, God's presence brings either blessing and or judgment, which is the curses. So to Israel, it was blessings when they were obedient. To the Philistines, and then curses when it wasn't. To the Philistines, it was nothing but judgment and destruction. The lesson in this is how you relate to God. It matters. So, how you treat him, how you respect him, honor him, deal with him, right? Handle him. Important observations. The ark never speaks. God acts without words. The Philistines recognize power but don't repent immediately. They don't. They fear replaces pride very quickly. Pride and ego all the time. Now, life application. God doesn't need you to protect him. Let him handle the battles and you stay faithful. This is what this is. Idols still fall today. Anything we put before God, whether it's money, status, people, will eventually collapse. Don't treat God casually. The Philistines thought the ark was just an object, and it cost them dearly. Now, God's presence exposes what was false. Truth destroys deception every time. The one takeaway is God will always prove his power. No idol, no system or force can stand before him. So we're going to look into Dagon. Who is Dagon? We wanted to find out who is this, right? So Dagon is a major god worshipped by the Philistines and earlier some Mesopotamian people. What kind of god was he? Primarily a fertility god. He was associated with grain and agriculture, most accepted view. So sometimes he was linked to sea and fish in later traditions. So that's like water. Those are the water gods, or marine kingdom. So Dagon, his name came from Dagon grain, meaning provider of crops. So this is what they was, So how is Dagon pictured? Often shown as a part man, part creature, sometimes connected to fish imagery in later traditions, seen as powerful life-giving deity. Now, why was he important? The Philistines relied on farming and survival. This is why they believe Dagon controlled the food supply and prosperity and survival. So when they put the ark in this temple, they basically were saying, our God defeated your God. And God responds by knocking down Dagon twice, making him worshipable. So historically, there are two ways to understand this. Where do these false gods come from? The two main ways to understand this: historically, human side, and biblical spiritual truth of God's perspective. Historical human explanation. Ancient people created gods to explain life and control fear. They built gods around nature, meaning sun, rain, and crops. Fear, war, death, and disaster. Needs, fertility, food, and protection. Examples: sun gods were for light and life. Storm gods were for rain. Fertility gods like Dagon for crops. War gods for protection. Every nation had its own sets of gods tied to survival. Biblical and spiritual explanation. The Bible goes deeper than people made them up. It teaches three important things. Some gods are man-made idols, meaning wood, stone, metal statues. No real power. Psalms 115, 4-7. But their idols are silver and gold. They have mouths but cannot speak. Some are tied to spiritual deceptions, meaning these are the demons. The Bible says behind idol worship can be real spiritual forces, but not God. 1 Corinthians 10 and 20. What pagan sacrifice they offer to demons, meaning not to God. This is what that was. So the meaning is the statue isn't alive, but the worship can connect to the evil spiritual influence that's behind it. People exchange truth for control. Humans often prefer gods that they can manipulate, carry around, and blame and or bargain with. Romans 1:22-23. They exchanged the glory of immortal God for images. And this is what this is. Now, what's happening in 1 Samuel 5, deeper meaning is when Dagon fall, it's not just a statue tipping over. God is showing, I outrank every God that you believe in. This is no contest. This is no battle. I am that God, the only true living God. And your false systems is false. Meaning the head equals authority is broken. The hands that equal power are broken. That's what they did. He did it. Symbol, Dagon has no power and no rule. So God letting them know, I don't lose just because my people fell. Israel lost the battle, but God didn't lose it. That's the difference. And he allowed them to lose it. Because if he was for them, they would have won it. Big picture takeaway. False gods come from one, human need, meaning fear, control, and survival. Cultural traditions. Spiritual deception behind the scenes. A lot of these was introduced during the time of Noah. If you remember, before God had completely wiped the earth out before. Now, a simple way to understand is people create gods to explain life. Some of those systems become spiritually dangerous, but the Bible says that there's only one true God. Now, the one powerful line is Dagon didn't fall because of an earthquake. He fell because he was standing in the presence of the real God. So the Philistines as a people of the false gods, Baal, Molech, Asherah, and or how this connects to modern idols today. We're going to look at it. Now, what I wanted to know was what actually happened, okay? So, core event, what actually happened, the ark, God's presence is placed in Dagon's temple. He falls down, of course, they lift it back up. It falls again, this time they had their hands cut off. What does Dagon face down mean? Spiritually, it means forced submission. God made a false god bow to him. It's a picture of worship revealed. They thought they captured God, but their God ended up worshiping him. Symbolism of the broken parts. The head is authority, meaning it was destroyed. The hands is power, action, that was destroyed. Meaning false system lose authority and power in God's presence. Full reality breakdown, then and now. Will break down mentally, emotionally, physically, financially, and spiritually. Mentally, their thought system. Then people believe each nation had its own God. They still do now. The strongest army equals the strongest God. Philistines thought we won, so Dagon is stronger than Yahweh. Now, what God did, he flipped their worldview instantly when he did that. Now, modern Dagon equal belief systems like money. When you put your trust in money, meaning it equals security, you worship it. Government equals ultimate authority. When you put your trust in them, no, it is not. Science, meaning absolute answers, no. Yourself, meaning your God, you do what feels is right. This is the problem. So now, mental takeaway, anything you believe in is your ultimate source, will bow and or break eventually. Meaning anything you put before the real God. So now, emotionally, then pride, fear, panic, desperation. Cities go from confidence to crime. Ekron literally says they bought it to kill us. Why? Now, the same cycle happens today. Confidence in systems, money, people, places, things collapse. It also gives us anxiety. The examples is economic crashes, institutional failures, and broken trust in leadership. This is the problem. Emotional takeaway. When your foundation is false, your peace is unstable. So this is why your life goes up and down. And you're just like, depending on what's going on with the economy, all these things. Physically, then, tumors, disease, death. Entire cities physically affected. These are the places. Now, while they're not always direct judgment, but we'll see the patterns, meaning stress equals sickness. Yeah. From anxiety, all of this up and down with life. Disorder equals health decline. Environment shaped by broken systems, real consequences. So the physical takeaway is what we align with spiritually often shows up physically. This is why you see people, be sick. Financial and economically. Then cities were disrupted, trade was impacted, and entire regions destabilized. You see it still today. But now, modern false gods of economy are greed systems, corrupt structures, and over-reliance on money for identity and security. But when they fail, such as times of recession, market crashes, and job insecurity, then this is when folks don't know what to do. Financial takeaway, that's when everything goes confusion, folks killing themselves. Money is a tool. It is not a God. This is what it is. If treated like one, collapse will follow. So spiritually, the root evil, or the root level, is then God proves he is not territorial, he is not defeated, he cannot be captured. Now is the same truth, but God is not limited to buildings, meaning churches, nations, and systems. Spiritual takeaway: God doesn't compete, he overrides. System-wide impact, then versus now. Government and politics. Then cities ruled by belief in gods, religion, and government authority. They still do now. When Dagon fell, it shook political identity. But now governments rely on power, control, influence, exploitation, oppression as well. But in parallel, any system that acts as ultimate authority can be humbled. Insight is God destabilizes anything that replaces him, even these systems. Now, church and religion, then and now. Israel tried to use the ark like a weapon in chapter 4. Even God's own people misused him. We see that still today. Now, some treat faith like a ritual, like a tool for success, like a cultural identity only. But the insight on this is God won't be used, even by believers. He requires relationship, not manipulation. He knows all of your hidden motives, intentions, and agendas. So it's not like we can sit here and play these games around. Social and culturally, then entire communities are shaped by idol worship. It is now as well. Non-idols shaping in culture look like this: fame, image, influence like social media, pleasure. Don't forget the money. That's culture owes to something. Now, the question is it truth or illusion? Now, families, then household follow city gods. They still do. Now, families center around money, success, comfort, and or faith, but it's basically the same, yes. Insight: what a family serves shapes its values, stability, and future generations. Then versus now versus future. Now we're going to look at it. Then in 1 Samuel 5, God exposes false gods. People respond with fear, but not full repentance yet. Now, today, we see the same pattern. Systems rise, people trust, systems fail. People feel shaken, confused, and searching. Now, futurely, biblically, everything false will eventually collapse. Only what's rooted in God will remain. This is why people who run around, oh, get your money up. Okay, and when everything falls and the money ain't worth nothing, then what? You put your whole life into this. You invested every time, money, energy, and effort, and you thought you was doing something until everything crashes and nothing's worth nothing, and those dollar bills is just pieces of paper. That's when your whole world is going to be like, right. So faith as a lifeline, this is the part that ties everything together. Why? Because only your faith in God is going to get you through those times, because it's coming. Don't think that it's not. So then Israel had access to God but lacked obedience. The Philistines had fear but lacked relationship. Now faith becomes a lifeline because systems fail, people fail, culture shifts constantly. But faith anchors you beyond these circumstances. This is what this is all about. Having faith that you're going to ride all of this out with God. He's going to be there with you just like he was with the Israelites. I mean, when you think about how he took them through all of that stuff and he still provided and protected them no matter what was going on, that's the only thing that's going to get you through. Because other than that, it's going to be a hot mess. Now, what faith actually does is stabilizes your mind. Why? So that you don't go crazy. Okay, because a lot of people go crazy, they go postal, they start killing themselves, killing everybody else. This is what massive panic and all this stuff. You start taking away the basic necessities of life. This is what's going to happen. Chaos and confusion. So you got to stabilize your mind. It grounds your emotions. It strengthens your family structure, and it keeps finances in perspective, meaning you don't make them your gods. It connects you to truth spiritually. This is what this is all about. So the real meaning is faith is not denial of reality. It is alignment with the only thing that doesn't collapse, which is God. Both picture and truth. What happens today is happening in cycles even today, every day. Everything that people elevate, meaning above God, will eventually be humbled, meaning taken away and destroyed. Anything that people depend on as an ultimate will utterly fail, especially when the time comes under pressure. Remember, the world is temporary. The afterworld is eternal. So, one powerful final line: Dagon fallen wasn't just about an idol, it was about warning that every false foundation eventually bows. It breaks and or collapses when truth shows up, when God shows up. So now we're going to connect this directly to our personal life patterns. We're going to look at it and we're going to pay attention to what's going on, because Dagons in modern times in detail is money, power, identity, fame, etc. Now, I wanted to look at sickness, poverty, and disease and how it's linked to curses and disobedience, right? Because we see that that's what God did. He used those boils and, to get them to take the ark back. So this is very important. So when you see places where they have stuff going on, this has a lot to do with it. It may not be everything, but it does. So we're going to explain it accurately and responsibly, because we don't want people to misunderstand it. Sickness, poverty, and hardship is a direct curse or punishment. It can be. So now, some conditions like tumors, boils, and 1 Samuel 5 are specific signs of judgment and or consequences in certain situations. We're going to break it down. What happened in 1 Samuel 5, the tumors and boils? The Philistines took the ark, treated God like a trophy. They honored a false god, Dagon. The result was God struck them with the tumors and boils. Now, the cities experienced pain, fear, and death. Why? What do tumors and boils represent? Physically, literally level, painful growths and or swelling, possibly plague-like disease. It was widespread suffering. Spiritual symbolic meaning is these conditions often represent corruption beneath the surface, something wrong internally being exposed externally, consequences of being out of alignment with God. What was hidden becomes visible. Now, are sickness and poverty always a curse? No, not always. This is critical. But the example Jesus said in John 9:3 is paraphrased. A man's blindness was not the cause of sin, but it was for God's purpose to show himself to be great when Jesus went to heal. So there are three main categories in the Bible. Direct consequences of disobedience sometimes. In certain cases, like 1 Samuel 5, people knowingly oppose God, they persist in wrong behavior and reject the truth. Then the consequences come. Now, examples of what conditions can represent. Conditions, tumors and boils. Possible symbolic meaning, internal corruption, spiritual defilement. Diseases and plagues, widespread disorder, collective misalignment. Poverty in some cases, broken systems, mismanagement, and misplaced trust. Now, the importance of this in case is specific because it's not automatic for everyone, so you got to pay attention. Now, natural consequences, cause and effect. Sometimes things are not curses, but outcomes of choices. For example, poor financial habits, meaning financial struggles. Chronic stress, meaning physical sickness. Toxic environments, meaning mentally and emotionally declining. This is not God punishing, it's natural consequences, right? It's just like people smoking and drinking and they end up, having lung cancer. Well, you were smoking your whole life, so yeah, you would think, okay, stuff like that. So now, testing and growth, not punishment. In many cases, people are faithful, but yet still experiencing hardship. Now, examples such as Job and his suffering, but this was righteous suffering. It was not curses upon his life. So now, Paul, sickness but chosen by God. So the purpose is growth, strength, and dependence on God. Now, what these conditions represent, meaning deeper level, let's break it down across all areas of life like we wanted to. Mentally, these things are confusion, fear, and loss of clarity. They represent trust placed in wrong things. These are unstable foundations. So emotionally, they are anxiety, distress, feel like the Philistines crying out. This represents loss of control, collapse of false security. Physically, it can look like tumors, illness, and breakdown. This represents inner disorder becoming visible, body reflecting environment and or alignment. Financially, it will be lack and instability. This represents misplaced dependency, meaning money as their God and or broken systems. Spiritually, it's separation from truth, misalignment with God. The root issue is everything flows from this level. Now, 4 is dangerous misunderstandings to avoid. Never assume sick equals curse or equals disobedience. Struggle equals guilty. That thinking can harm people emotionally. It can create shame, distort how God actually works. So even Jesus rejected this mindset. People try to link suffering, meaning sin, directly to suffering to sin directly, but he corrected them. So then verses now, how this plays out. Then in biblical times, God sometimes acted directly and visibly. Whole cities judged at once. Physical signs match spiritual realities. Now, today, things are more layered. Consequences still exist. Spiritual misalignment still affects life. But not every issue is a direct judgment. Exactly. So today, systems collapse. Economy, institutions, health, crises happen. People feel lost. But the causes include lifestyle, systems, environment, and spiritual conditions sometimes. It's not just one thing. Impact on families and society. When things are aligned, this is stability, peace, and growth. But when things are misaligned, these are stress cycles, financial struggle, emotional strain, and generational patterns. Not always occurs, but patterns can pass down if not corrected. This is how we see even with the little boy Ishmael. You say people reap what they sow, but sometimes you reap stuff you didn't even sow, because if it was already there, then it would come to you because it's in the bloodline. So this is how that will work. How faith functions in this. Faith is not ignoring problems, that everything bad is punishment. Faith is alignment, getting your life centered properly, stability, holding steady even when things shake. Discernment, understanding what consequences, what's attack, and what's growth. Big truth is balance. In the Bible, some sickness equals judgment, like in 1 Samuel 5, but some sickness is natural causes. Some sickness is testing. So, clear summary, tumors and boil in 1 Samuel 5, these are visible signs of spiritual disorder, and these are divine judgment in that specific case. But today, not every hardship means curse and or punishment. Final line is, the real message isn't every problem occurs. It's that when life is out of alignment at the root, it can show up in every area. But faith reconnects you to what restores and stabilizes everything. So now we want to look at, I said, does God give these lessons to target specific gods and their belief in them? Why? Because I wanted to see what that was about. So we're going to look at it. Short answer is accurate, balanced, and deeper. Why? Because it's a powerful concept. So the short answer is yes, sometimes God acts in this way that directly confronts false gods and their beliefs tied to them. Why? Because it is not random punishment. It is a target revelation to expose what people trust in instead of Him. So what God was doing in 1 Samuel 5, this wasn't just about hurting the Philistines. It was strategic and specific. God targeted Dagon, their main god, their belief system, their sense of control and security. Why? We're going to see. Sequence matter. Ark was placed beside Dagon. Dagon falls, meaning submission. Dagon breaks, power removed, people struck. Why? Belief is shaken. Their belief is shaken. This shows that God wasn't judging the people. He was dismantling what they believed in. God targets the source, not just the symptom. People were just worshiping a statue. They believed that Dagon equal provider. Dagon equal protector. Dagon equal source of life. So God attacked their source of identity and their system of trust. Some same pattern appears in the other parts of the Bible, such as Egypt. The Exodus plagues. Each plague hit a specific god. The Nile was attacked, meaning the river god. The sun was darkened, that attacked the sun god. Livestock killed, this attacked the fertility god. God was saying, everything you rely on, I control it. Why God does this? Not to punish, but to reveal the truth to these people. To expose what is false. People trusting in things that look powerful, feel reliable, but aren't ultimately that. So to break false security, the Philistines thought, we were safe, we have Dagon. But their God falls, their bodies fail, and their cities panic. To redirect the people to truth, even though they didn't fully repent yet, God was forcing the realization, this is not just another God, meaning Him. This is different. Important balance. Not every hardship equals God targeting a false God, but sometimes patterns do look like this. So then versus now and how this is still happening. Then it was biblical word. So God's word, visible idols such as Dagon, Baal, etc. Systems were obvious. But now in the modern world, we don't bow to statues, but we still have functional gods. And some people in some places, they still do. Modern equivalents of Dagon, money, meaning I'll be safe if I have enough. Power and government, this will protect me. Self, meaning I control my life completely. And relationships, This person is my everything. So when you put those before God, you make them your God and you worship them instead of him, this becomes a problem. Those are your idols. So when those collapse, finances fail, systems disappoint, people let us down, it feels like everything is falling apart. Sometimes that collapse acts like a modern version of Dagon falling. How it hits different in these areas. Mentally, confusion when beliefs fail. I thought this would work. Emotionally, anxiety and fear. Same panic as the Philistines. Physically, the stress that affects the body, which can cause you to be sick. This is environmental impacts, also the health. Financially, loss exposes where trust was. So if you put your trust in stock market and money, and then when it falls, then you're going to be like, right. Spiritually, it forces the real question, what am I actually dependent on? Impact on systems then and now. Government and politics. Then national identity was tied to God's. Now it is systems that promise security and control. So when they fail, people lose trust and instability rises. Religion and church. Then even Israel tried to use God in chapter 4. Now some treat faith like a formula, like a safety net only. God resists being used instead of followed. Because you can't, God knows your true motives and your true intentions. So you can't play games with him. Families then and now. What a family serves shapes everything. If it's unstable, family feels it. If it's grounded, stability grows. Big truth that we're pointing to, meaning refined, God doesn't randomly attack people, but he will confront anything that replaces him. And when he does, it can look like collapse, exposure, and disruption, meaning in your life, any and every area. But the deeper goal is correction, realignment, and truth being revealed to you. So you can see it, so you can change it. Now, where faith fits, faith keeps you from building your life on things that will fall and fail. Without faith, you attach to temporary things, and when they break, you break. That's why you see a lot of people, when they lose everything, they go crazy. They go postal, they kill everybody, or they kill themselves. This is why. They can't handle it. They mind it, just something happens, they snap. They had all of that faith, all of that everything in that, and when it doesn't work out, that's what happens. With faith, you're anchored beyond systems, so when things shake, you don't collapse with them. This is what this is about. Final line, clear and balanced. Yes, God will confront false gods and beliefs behind them, not just to punish, but to expose, meaning reveal what people are trusting in, and break their false foundations, and redirect them towards what is real and lasting. So now, how we identify Dagons in our own lives. We want to look at this. Why? Because we want to make sure we're not doing this. So identify the Dagons in your life, meaning personally and globally, how to tell the difference between shaking and consequences versus attack and growth, and who actually to realign strategy for our lives. Identifying Dagons today, personal, systemic systems. Dagon just isn't a statue, it's anything you depend on like it's your ultimate source. Personal, Dagon's individual level. Ask yourself, if this collapses, do I feel like I collapse with it? Common ones, money, financial security. If my money isn't right, am I good? Do I feel when my money is unstable? So that means you're putting your trust in your money, not in God. The sign of Dagon, this is what it is. Anxiety tied directly to your finances. So if you was to have a whole bunch of money and lose everything tomorrow, what would that look like for you? Pay attention. Idols. This is what this is about. Relationships and people. If you find someone and you can't live without them, anything you can't live without or you think you can't, this is a problem outside of God. Relationships and people. That's why I say people, places, and things. I need this person to be okay. Identity is tied to approval or being with people or not. That is a problem. It is a sign. Emotional instability. When people shift. Why? Because people can come and go. Will that mean you're going to go jump off a cliff or your life is over? No, you don't need to do that. Self-control, independence. I've got this. I don't need help. Over-reliance on self. Sign. Oh, I can do it all. I don't need nobody. I don't need God. Or thinking you're God. Or having, yourself, seeing yourself as God. You can always, no. Sign is panic when things go out of your control. Why? Because you're not in control. You're not going to be in control. Some things you will have control over. Some things you will not. They're out of your control. Success and image, your status, your reputation and achievement. So this is fortune, fame, this is all of this. Now, is that your God? Is that your Dagon? Sign of this is pressure to perform constantly, fear of failure, and identity crisis. So if I'm not constantly going back to school, if I'm not chasing this or chasing that or doing this or doing that, can I not just rest, be me, be okay with being me? I don't have to be the best, the beautifulest, to have the most money, be the most famous. Do you have to do all of that? Because if you can't be without that, then there's a problem. You're making these things dagons, meaning these are your idols, these are your gods, you worshiping them. Without them, you have no life. There's no real you. Where and who is what is the real you? Where is it? You came into this world without these things. You can live with them and without them. And when you leave here, you're going to leave without them anyway. So do not tie yourself. And I tell people titles, accolades, all of this stuff. Because once they are gone, life changes and it shifts. And the moment that shifts, what does that look like for you? Does it look like you falling apart, you dying, you killing yourself, you can't be without? That's a problem. Systemic Dagon society level. This affects people everywhere, including us directly and indirectly. Government. Ultimate authority mindset, economy, money and equals security, technology, control and knowledge, right? Because science and all these things, culture, validation, identity and shaping, all of these things, when we think about them, where do we fit here? When these shake, like layoffs, inflation, political instability, it can feel like life itself is unstable. This is why you have to be rooted in God, because no matter what's going on, you'll know that God is going to protect you. How to discern that? So your faith coming. How you discern what you're experiencing. This is critical because not everything is the same. Shaking. God exposing a foundation, what it feels like. Something you depended on is collapsing. Your confidence is being challenged. God will take everything from you just to show you. Example, job loss reveals dependency on income for identity. Exactly. If you're basing your identity off your job, off your title, off how many degrees, off how much money, this is a problem. Purpose. Reveal misplaced trust. Rebuilding on something stronger. This is what God is going to do. Key question: was I learning? Was I leaning on this more than I realized? Meaning on that more than God. Consequence, cause and effect. What it feels like. Direct result of decisions and or patterns. Example: overspending, financial strain, chronic stress, health issues. Purpose is correction, awareness, and better decisions. Key question: what pattern led to this? Attack and pressure, what it feels like. Resistance when you're doing right, and pressure without clear cause. So, examples: moving forward in life, sudden obstacles, growth, unexpected difficulties. Purpose is test and endurance and strengthen faith. Key question: am I doing the right thing but facing resistance anyway? Now, growth and testing, what it feels like. Stretching, discomfort without destruction. Purpose is to build strength and to deepen trust in who? God, not yourself. Key question: is this stretching me or not breaking me? Sometimes God will stretch you. Sometimes He will break you, and whatever the reason is to get you in alignment with Him. Quick discernment grid. Situation: something you depended on collapsing, likely is shaken. Patterns that leads to outcome is consequences. Right path but heavy resistance. Attack: discomfort that builds strength is likely type growth. What to do? Realignment steps. Where is this most, where people miss it? How do you respond determines what happens next. Step 1, identify your foundation. Ask, what do I trust for security? What do I fear losing the most? What's your potential Dagon? Step 2, detach identity from it. Instead of this defines me, shift to this is not a tool, not my source. Step 3, anchor your thinking mentally. Stability doesn't come from circumstances. It comes from alignment. Step 4, correct practical patterns. If it's a consequence, adjust habits, fix structure, meaning budget, health, and boundaries. Step 5, build internal stability. So even if things shake, you don't collapse with them and you adapt instead of panic. How this affects the real life, you and your family, when Dagons get removed. At first, there'll be confusion, stress, and fear. But later, if handled right, clarity, strength, and better decisions. Generational impact, if not addressed, same patterns repeat, meaning financial, emotional, mental. That's every aspect. Mentally, emotionally, physically, financially, and spiritually. If corrected, stability and increase, future improves. Faith as a lifeline, real meaning. Faith is not ignoring problems and blaming everything on spiritual stuff. Faith is anchor. You are stable even when things shake. Filter, you don't panic, you evaluate. Alignment, you build your life on something that doesn't change and collapse. God, full truth, tying it all together. What happened to Dagon is a pattern. False foundation, it was exposed. False authority, it was broken. False power, it was removed. What happens next depends on your response. If ignored, the fear cycle continues. If understood, life gets stronger and more stable if you put action and change it. Final line, real and direct. Dagon falling in your life looks like anything that you relied on collapsing. But it's not just a loss, it's exposure. And if you respond right, it becomes the moment your foundation actually gets rebuilt stronger. So this is what this is. Short answer, the great observation. We're learning a lot about Israel's condition at that time. Israel didn't fight. Oh yeah, okay. So I think that was that. Now another thing, because when I went through my I don't know if it was a midlife crisis or what, when God shook my life. I mean, don't get me wrong, I have been up and down in my life before, but this was different when everything just kind of collapsed all around me, because yeah, those were the Dagons in my life. I had, all faith in my money, in my home, in my marriage, my stability, my cars, the 4 cars. I had that, So when all of that collapsed, that changed my whole life. You see what I'm saying? Even when my health, started declining. So everything just kind of is like a domino effect. It fell, boom, 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 boom. But I was trusting so severely in all of these things. So all of this just kind of hit me, and it let me see that I was not relying on God, that I was relying on myself, on my husband, on my finances, my job, my money, my house, my, the cars, the 4 cars, the kids, this. So when it all fell apart, and my health and all of that, that was a big woo. Like, okay, so all of my idols, all of my gods, taking it with boom, swoop, and it just really did something. So when I tried to kill myself, that was what that was about. I didn't know what else to do at this point, because I had put so much of my life, into chasing this down, hunting this down for the past 15, 20, 30 years of getting to this point. So when all that I had put forth was in that, and it collapsed, it destroyed my whole life and the way of thinking. So I tell you this, I'm going to tell everybody who's out there, I'm happy for you if you're making it and all of this. But please, do not let this be your God and your idol, your end or be all. I promise you. Do not get too boastful. Do not get too prideful, ego, thoughtful, or do not get too much, oh, I'm so better than. Do not get so, oh, I'm bragging because I'm going to show y'all that. Do not do that. Because the one thing that I have learned about this life, what goes up comes down. I don't care how much degrees, how much money. And at the end of the day, what God has already said in his word, in the last days, all of these things are going to collapse. Please understand this. Making your money, saving it, doing all wonderful situations. Do not get me wrong. But don't sit here and tell people to be like you, to do like you, to do this, to do that. Everybody's not called for that. And number 2, when it comes to God, please put your trust in God. Build your foundation on God, because that's the only thing that's going to truly last, because it's talking about the last days. Sickness, poverty, and disease, famine is going to be throughout the world, Craig. Not just America, no, the world, Craig. So because we know this, we need to be preparing ourselves mentally, emotionally, physically, financially, and spiritually. Because the only thing that's going to matter, and remember, either you're going to be for the Lord or you're going to be for Satan. You're going to have to stand. Why? Because folks' heads going to be cut off, all kind of stuff. Christians going to be killed. This is where your faith is going to really come in. Why? Because it's not going to be cute. This is not going to be a party. Your money, all your stuff, you're going to be dependent on God like they did for manna, bread coming down from heaven. Why? Because these folks with these beast systems ain't going to be trying to feed you. These are Satan's folks. Please understand that. They're going to be out to kill, steal, and destroy you. And either you're going to take the mark of the beast or you're going to suffer and die. So please understand, and you must be ready and willing and able to do that. Why? Because a lot of folks are going to kill themselves. Why? Because they can't be without the money and the fame and all that. They're not going to be able to trust in God to deal to take care of them even unto death. This is what this is about. So don't get too caught up in all of this. Do not get too caught up. Because I'm telling you, the cars, the money, all of this is going to be gone. It's going to be gone. And the only thing you're going to have is yourself and your faith in God to get you through it. That's it. So you might need to be, that's why I think God allowed me to go through certain things. You're going to have to be able to survive off of nothing, off of you and God in order to make it. And everybody want to get to heaven, but nobody want to die, because you're going to have to leave here some kind of way in order to get there. So please understand this. So I'm saying this to say I love people. Please understand this. Your lifeline is going to be that faith. And that's all they had when he took them out of Egypt. They didn't have nothing but their faith. You got to understand this. He was giving them food from heaven. And if God is going to part the Red Sea and feed you manna from heaven, and that's the way you're going to survive, that's the way it's going to be. But you're going to have faith to know that God is going to provide even in those times for you. This is what that's going to look like when there's no food in your refrigerator, when you have no money, when a loaf of bread going to cost you an arm and a leg literally to get it. What are you going to do? Because it's one thing to walk around cute and bragging about all these things now, the makeup, the this, the money, the this. But when it's gone, Bookie, what are we going to do? And are you going to be able to stand? Because see, Christ stood. Folks think Christ was something to play with. Christ stood. And we're going to have to take up our cross and stand even in those times. So what are we made of? What are we made of? We're going to have to stand, honey. And that means if I can sit here now and talk to you with no weave, no this, no that, why? Because, listen, if this is where I am and this is where God has me, and I'm going to love, praise, and worship him and follow him in spite of all of that, this is what that looks like. Whether I get the house, whether I get the car, whether I get this breakthrough or whatever y'all want to call it, the fame, the money, the power, the this, the that, even if I don't get none of that, if he don't bless me near another day, meaning with nothing else, which I'm already blessed just to have food on my table, clothes on my back, and a roof over my head, whatever it is he's provided, it may not be to the level which people think that should be, but it's the level to which I am being sustained. Nonetheless. And if I was on, having to wait on him to rain manna down from heaven, what does that look like? I'm going to have to be happy and content and praising and worship him regardless. The fact that he's still providing for me. This is why people say, oh, you was in the shelter and you was here. And I told him, I'm standing. Christ came, he stand. He had to stand on the word, the message, what God told him. He had to stand. Even on that cross, until all the pain, the heartache, yes, he had to stand. And this is what taking up your cross is really going to look like. It's not going to look like people packed out in arenas and walking up and down talking about this, that, and the third. No, it's going to look like you have no money, no food, no nothing. And unless God rain manna down from heaven, your stomach going to be in your back. You, your children, your grandchildren, this, that, and the third. What you going to do? You going to stand for God, or you going to take them off? So when we sit here, we talk about all of this. It sounds wonderful, it sounds cute. You get a blessing, you get a blessing. No. The blessing gonna be the manna that's raining down from heaven, and your stomach is in your back, cause you gotta wait. When the judgment comes, and trust me, it's coming. We see it unfolding daily, what they are doing, folks being killed for preaching and teaching the gospel right now. And in other places you can't even do it. Please understand, this is what this is about. Folks need to get their minds, their hearts, and everything right. Because this ain't nothing to play with. This is not going to be for the weak. It's not going to, no. Either you and your family going to get together and love each other and try to wait it out, or y'all going to be attacking each other, going crazy and killing each other. Which one is it going to be? And see, Christ said he come to separate that anyway. This is what this going to look like. So I hope folks is paying attention. I hope we really looking and seeing what is really going on. This is what God is trying to tell us. He's trying to let us see that you will have to praise me even when I don't bless you or to your what you think it should be. Even when you gotta wait and hold out and all of that. Yes, it may not be what you think it's gonna be. Now, don't get it twisted. The ones that's going to pay, they're going to pay too for what they are doing. Don't get it twisted. We got the wealth transfer. We got a bunch of things coming before that time, but it is coming. Don't think that it's not. It is coming. God is raising up people to sound the alarm and let us know what's going on, and he's also going to raise up and take away. So some folks going to get tore up and they're going to get destroyed, and all of what they have going to be taken, and then others going to be raised. You see how this is happening. You see it in Samson. One is raised, the other one is tore down. Why? Because if you're not willing to do what God wants you to do, which is to feed, clothe, and help his people, you're going to be destroyed. All your wealth, your fame, your power is going to be taken from you and given to his people like it's supposed to be in the first place. Like, share, comment, and subscribe to the channel. We're bruised and not broken. Please understand this is what it is. And when it comes to the worshiping of these other gods and you see what's going on, this is the root of all of this. And like I said before, those demons that they're worshiping, those spirits, that's what they are. They are not for you. They are here to destroy you. This is why they want robots. These are the ones who are cursed, the disembodied spirits, the ones that want to have a body. This is how they jump into people's bodies so that they can have a body. Why? Because they want to be able to eat. They want to be able to live. Why? Because they don't have that. We think they're making robots. No, they're making robots so that these disembodied spirits will have a body. And they want to what? That's why you see all the iRobots on it. They're destroying humans. They hate humans. They hate God's people, meaning he created us and they want to kill us all. They are angry. These are the spirits that are there. This is what this is. And that's who they are, you are worshiping. You're worshiping the same ones who want to kill you. So if that makes any sense. And you will see that. Because eventually that's exactly what they're going to do. They will use you. Satan will use you. He will allow the spirits to use you, the demons. And then once they are done using you, because they need a physical body to operate here. But once they finish with you, they done. They will kill you off. I promise you. So pay attention to that. Like, share, comment, and subscribe to the channel. This is June 25th. Thursday, we are in 1 Samuel chapter 5, and this is, like I said, what we're doing. A lifeline is faith, y'all. You'll have to have that faith, baby. So I hope that this was a blessing to you guys. It was a blessing to me. Be blessed in Jesus' name. Bruised and not broken. Love you guys, and until the next word.